And we're live again. We're back. That was only 2 seconds. I figured it out. We couldn't hear it, but I think the audience could actually hear what we were talking about. All right, so this is from a few weeks ago. This is coverage of AOC on Beat the Press. And I might make this a regular segment where we pick on Beat the Press because they don't get enough critics, and that can kind of parry them in the appropriate way. They catch a lot of flack on Twitter, but I'd rather do it in this integrated audio setting. So maybe we'll pick this apart, and then we'll enjoy the rest of our Sunday. How about that?
Sounds
all right,
good.
we've been going for a little bit. All right, here we go. Let's see what this goes.
Of the new Democratic Congress is New York's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. After winning a primary against a longtime incumbent, she soared to stardom with mostly flattering.
She soared to stardom. Let's kind of review there. There's a bit of a gloss there, and the weird part is Emily is the most conservative person on this panel, and she's a liberal Democrat. She's a liberal Democrat. If you watch the show, she is in fact the most conservative person. She's like an old school Democrat. But do you or do you not think that she soared to stardom because she's pretty?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's like
right?
One of those
okay.
things that I learned as a child from my grandmother.
Okay. She is famous because she's pretty.
Yeah.
Like she pulled off like the fluke primary win because 2,000 people voted in that primary apparently, and New York's primary laws are so screwed up that they don't really protect incumbency. Like the federal is different from the local primary, so they split the primary election dates.
Yeah.
It's right before the general election, so if she won that primary, she was guaranteed to do that. And then I can't remember if she was popular before the primary.
I've never heard of her before.
Yeah, and then she won it, and then she came out of nowhere because she was uber left, young, and
she's energetic.
She's energetic, but because she's pretty.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but that's why she got all the attention. People like her, Emily, and the rest of the crew on here.
Media coverage, something another one-time rising political star did not get.
Okay, so
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is
just real quick. They're comparing her to Palin, and they're saying why it's not. This is going to get good. I like this segment.
Embracing her celebrity and not backing down on proposals she admits are radical, like eliminating the use of fossil fuels in 12 years.
That's my favorite. That's right. Eliminating the use of fossil fuels in 12 years. Anybody who's even remotely smart about this would say phase it out over time, or wouldn't like completely freak everybody out.
I feel like you're still creating carbon emissions with an alternative source. If anything, maybe you're doing the same damage to the climate.
Well,
just a different source.
The Green New Deal, they wanted to eliminate air travel and replace it all with trains.
Yeah.
Now the idea that the carbon footprint would be less for the construction of all those trains, let alone just that it's unworkable and dumb, is astounding to me. This was released as an actual plan that they want to help win an election against Donald Trump. That's not going to do it. This is crazy people talk, and the people that are defending her and Markey are out of their minds.
That is the goal.
So
it's ambitious, and
how is that possible?
It's likely not possible. But Ocasio-Cortez says in order to
at least Emily admits it,
pay for that proposal and more, she'd raise taxes on people making over $10 million a year.
People are going to have to start paying their fair share.
Conservative commentators have jumped.
Okay, so in my past life, I did financial advising. All my clients were very wealthy individuals that make that type of money.
Right.
I've seen their tax returns. They pay their fair share.
I don't think these people know what fair means.
Well, there's
no. I mean,
you can argue what.
Well,
fair
but
means.
they think just because the wealthy make more money, that somehow you're allowed to take a higher percentage of it. That's progressive, and the label progressive, but is in fact regressive, because the fairest thing would be everybody pays 10 or 15 or 20%.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
That's fair. It's a proportion, and the argument goes, well, that amount affects the working family more, the lower income family more. No, it's a proportion.
Yes.
And then and more buy-in for everybody. I've been in favor of a flat tax for a long time, but AOC wants them to pay their fair share.
Others never quite explain what fair share really means.
But most news organizations have come to Ocasio-Cortez's defense on just about everything, including when conservatives tried to make fun of her over a college dance video that went viral.
No, we didn't. Nobody did. Nobody
I didn't
did.
even know about that.
Nobody did. That was the other thing. Nobody did. It pissed me off because if there was this was phony. This was a trap. They released this as bait. Every even like the most Christian conservative people you follow on Twitter, like what's his Eric Erickson and Ben Shapiro's like this. Everybody's just like fine.
Yeah.
And yes, not Ben Shapiro's not Christian conservative, but you know what I mean. He's super conservative. Nobody cared. I didn't care. This is fine.
Yeah.
This is fine. They made this up so that they could, claim some victimhood
I'm
here.
I'm glad that this came out because I'm sure there's plenty of videos like me.
You'll never run for office again, Governor Northam from Virginia.
Yeah.
Sometimes can focus on someone
this
on the
was a
left.
difference.
And
did we lose
overstep
audio
to
again?
a point where it gets ugly.
Damn it.
Still, Ocasio-Cortez has also
Okay,
said
hang
some
on.
questionable
We'll get this
things,
back.
like this response when she was
I know
called
what I
out for
did.
being factually wrong.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
This is dangerous. This is bad because this means that you don't have to actually be right about it. Facts don't matter. Feelings take precedent. If you feel like you're morally in the right position,
We'll never get anything done in this world if we
right.
cared
But
about
this
everyone.
is a problem. This is a real problem, and this is the attitude that a lot of them have. You cannot
Back
just
in
disregard
2008,
this.
when John McCain picked Alaska
now they
Governor
compare to
Sarah
Sarah
Palin
Palin.
as his running mate, she was picked apart by the mainstream media.
You've cited Alaska's proximity to Russia as part of your foreign policy experience.
Because our next-door neighbors are foreign countries.
As Boston Globe columnist Joan
No, she
Bonacci
wasn't
pointed
wrong.
out this week, Palin was widely mocked. And again, she could have been a heartbeat away from the presidency. Ocasio-Cortez is just at the start of her political.
You've created this. They've created this. Like they've thrust the spotlight onto her.
Right.
This is all, and then there's supposed to be now the criticism of her is not valid because why?
Also, for a freshman congresswoman, why is her office so big?
That's a good point.
Like,
That's a nice office.
Yeah, that's a nice office, and I've seen plenty of offices in.
Yeah, they're not. They look like
And that it's
good
either
for
she's
her.
using someone
So I
else's
said,
office
as
or we
Joan
just gave it to
Bonacci
her.
wrote about
Yeah.
this week, but other people had mentioned it, and I realized
can't wait to
one
hear what
is
they
a-
have to say on this.
A new congressperson and fairly low on the totem pole, and Sarah Palin, could have been the president if John McCain had been elected. But
The media
this
coverage
still
shouldn't
strikes
matter
me
for
as
that, whatever position
ideological
they're in.
bias to a point. I feel like
Okay. Good for Emily for saying that. Let's repeat that. I'm going to play that again.
if John McCain had been elected, but this still strikes me as ideological bias to a point. I feel like she's beautiful and she's, very telegenic, but I feel like
I'm surprised she didn't get any criticism for that. But the point being is
not
that,
surprised.
yeah,
Because
it is ideological. It is ideological. This is probably the honest section of this segment of Beat the Press. Now
the
we'll
media
get to
has
the point.
embraced her because she's liberal.
Well, there may be something to that. On the other
Maybe.
hand, we're
No.
starting to see
No,
It's all about
it's
that.
all about
It's all
that.
about
It's
that.
all about Dan. It's all about that, Dan.
some rather dubious fact-checking done on her, where she will make a hyperbolic point and people will say, oh, that's a lie, it's false. And all she's doing is talking hyperbolically the way a lot of us do. That clip in which she seemed to be defending.
Now, it's different. It's different when other people do it because of the expectation. But this is such a different standard. They would not be doing this if this was a Republican saying this. If there was some freshman Republican who caught fire
Right.
And was taking over the media and getting on TV all the time, they would be ripping them apart.
Exactly.
Speaking falsely. What she said right after that, I think, is important. Anderson Cooper said, but being factually correct is important. And she said, it's absolutely important. And when I...
But being morally correct is more important.
Right.
That's what she said. That's the problem.
Make a mistake, I try to restate what my point was. That doesn't get quoted very often. I honestly don't
That's
see.
because she was talking about being morally right.
No, but I
No, but what
when I make a mistake, I try to correct it
Yeah.
and state what my point was.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that seems to get left out of this. I think she's doing fine. I do think that as a rookie congresswoman, she is flying a little bit close to the sun, and she might want to get the spotlight.
This was also recorded before the release of the Green New Deal. Like I have a feeling after this debacle that she did this week, she's gonna get flack from the powers that be and go like, what did you do?
Right.
Unwilling to work, because they deleted that part from the document, and she said it was a mistake and shouldn't have been on there, and now it's well, they were saying it's a lie, sort of, but now she's lying that it was on her website. It was clear as day. That's what they intended to put on.
They're not going to give her any media coverage all of a sudden. It's going to go fly into the wind as if
that'll be they can just stop covering her and it'll go away, and they'll kill it. It'll be interesting if they realize that some other people on that party who everybody's friends with at all the networks and all the papers will say stop. Yeah. Whatever she said, just ignore it. But I don't know. She's got like 3 million Twitter followers, so
might offer to at least to some extent.
I think the media has focused on her because she was the harbinger of what happened in the 2018 midterm. She was a signal of where the country was going before Ayanna Pressley and a whole bunch.
She's more a signal where the Democratic Party was going.
Yeah, I was gonna say, really? Is that where the country's going?
I don't think the country's going. They made this mistake last time.
I don't think I could run for office and all of a sudden just win because I fit the profile.
If you move to the right district, you might.
In Massachusetts.
Well, you never know. The Democratic Party. Adam's right to a point that's where the party's going. This is where the party's going.
Yeah.
She knocked off an older white guy. And
so did Ayanna Pressley.
This is true. Yeah. By the way, for the record, I won some money on that. People bet me. Yeah, people bet me. I was like, as soon as she announced her campaign, I was like, she is definitely going to win the primary. And I'm not. I mean, and I even said she's going to crush him in the primary. And I was right. And people bet against me, and I still have to collect a nice steak dinner from one of our state representatives.
Oh.
So I have not forgotten that. I'll cash that in soon.
Well, at least that state representative still has a job.
He does. He does.
That's, I think, why she's been covered as early and as frequently, and I don't know if I'd say positively, but as dramatically as she has. And I don't think that Mika Brzezinski pointing out that the sort of weird, infatuatory response the right had to that dancing video is evidence of bias. I thought it was a little bizarre how fixated so many, in particular, male conservatives were absolutely disgusted by her socialism.
Adam, I like Adam a lot. I like Adam a lot, but this was just not true. This was just not true. I mean, you can maybe find some Twitter trolls, but nobody even people that have a wide audience on Twitter or social media or something, we're not talking about that video. This is just, it's just nonsense. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And more to the point, nobody serious cared. You probably could find a couple of tweets from a couple of trolls who tried to get this out there, but it was not.
Luxuriated in talking about this video that was shot in college when she was dancing. So I don't see it as quite as
come on.
big a problem as you do.
I tend to agree. I think Adam is right that what brought her to the point where all eyes are on her, and particularly the eyes of the opposition here, was the fact that she upset an old line member of Congress who just nobody ever expected
I'm gonna fast forward
in Congress other than perhaps horizontally on a gurney. So
I like John Keller's takes. He's funny.
I sort of question the whole premise here. That there's a big difference in the way Palin and Ocasio-Cortez are being treated.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There's no, he said no difference. John, are you, I'm going to look into the camera. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now? There's no difference. That is insane. That is insane, buddy. Oh, God. They ripped her apart. And maybe it was justified because she said some, you know, wacky things, but they defend her wacky things. They don't call it out. Her policy proposals are nuts. Nuts. And the New York Times is covering for her. The Globe is covering for her. And
keep in mind,
and John Keller
when Sarah Palin was
covering
chosen,
for her.
she was a sensation. I remember in the newsroom, the news director at the time was like, what are our Palin stories today? The viewers couldn't get enough of it, and her speech at the Republican convention was a sensation. She was being hailed.
So was AOC. She was a sensation. That's not the difference. It's the coverage of the sensation. Because as that sensationalism died down, you got to know what that person thought and what that person thinks and what they thought about the issues and what they were going to do for the country and what they were knowledgeable about. And she got ripped apart by CBS. She got ripped apart on 60 Minutes and because she was a Republican.
Right.
The idea that it was some sort of fair and balanced thing where they're not doing this to AOC, the only people that are criticizing her, AOC, are people like us.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Fox News, yada, yada, it's their favorite thing. It drives ratings. I get it. But all this stuff drives ratings. So they can't have it both ways. Either you cover it both fairly.
They think they can have it both ways.
Well, that's why live stream podcasts like this are going to be the new gold standards. Are we getting texts? Are people watching? I hope so.
Oh, well,
let's find out.
I don't know if this person knows about it.
All right, never mind. You're making plans for later. There's no football this afternoon.
Oh, I know. I was like, what am I going to do with my Sunday?
I'm going to read a nice book.
Hailed as the new wave of American political figure. Then the scrutiny began, and she started to bleep up and was ridiculed for it. Yes. Well, same thing with this young congresswoman. The incredible hype machine, which she's feeding into.
All right, here's the difference. This is important because this is something that they've been talking about in our conservative circles. So now it is when Palin screwed up and they saw that she didn't know what she was talking about on a variety of issues. That was the story. This person running for office or potentially in office doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right. Now
the story is with AOC is conservatives pounce. Conservatives target the stupid thing that she says. It's not so the media can kind of get around this, get around covering her by covering conservatives. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
now. And this is like a common theme. I have a video queued up about their take on the Covington kids, which is even worse. And I might play that. I don't know. We get it's similar to this, but that's what they're talking about.
So forth. She makes a mistake. She gets called on it.
She gets called on it by us. She gets called on it by us.
I don't see John Keller calling her out on it. Right.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody does. Well,
life goes
that's
on,
an absolute. I won't say nobody.
But I don't see that there's a real double standard.
Oh,
in the way
I mean, the stuff that they were asking.
When Emily is the voice of reason on your panel, everybody, you have to reevaluate
How
this.
How they still have the show is really amazing.
I love this. She's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "I see it clear as day." I want to rewind that. Listen to this after he wraps up. What is it? All right, 10 seconds here. We'll go back. This is hilarious.
She makes a mistake. She gets called on it. Life goes on, I think. But I don't see that there's a real double standard.
I mean, the stuff that they were asking Sarah Palin, what newspapers do you read, what books do you read, it's just they were just drilling down. Nothing could be done to make her look stupider. There was a lot of intentional.
You think of the what newspapers do you read as a gotcha question? Because to me, that's the easiest thing in the world. If you're someone who informs and so what?
That's not a standard question.
That's great. That's great. I love it.
True.
Oh man, that's so good. Okay, let's wrap up with this.
What newspapers you read? You
may want to fix that link.
I think they asked her that.
What happened?
Because we had no idea who she was. Right? All of a sudden, this person, no one's ever.
What's up? Oh, are we getting feedback from the?
My
sound?
post put a space in the link.
Oh, don't worry about that. We can resend
it.
If they don't have to watch live. They don't have to watch live.
You might want to fix that link.
Okay. As long as the actual broadcast goes out fine, we'll test this out, and I'll see how it goes on for the rest of it.
Heard of is on the verge of running the
They
United
were looking
States.
for an answer, which was, I don't read newspapers.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, let me escape. Let's go back to me. All right. You want to do one more or no?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more. And then we'll call it a day and go enjoy our lives because we're coming up on almost a little over an hour. All right, so open link. There we go. Uh-oh, let's see. Do we get it? Let's see if we get audio first. Oh, wait.
And harassment on the
Okay.
part of a group of white teenagers.
All right, so we're a bit late on this, and everybody's covered it. But this is the press covering. This is this is very meta. We're covering Beat the Press's covering of the media covering the Covington kids, and that's so convoluted. But I'm just testing all this stuff out, make sure it works, so we can have fun. All right, let me make that big. And let's go back to Emily, and here we go.
What was first reported as a clear case of bullying and harassment on the part of a group of white teenagers wearing Make America Great Again hats has now taken a few dramatic twists.
Wait, how much did you follow this? Did you follow what happened, or are you not really familiar with it?
Wait, is this when they were in Washington? And
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah. These were the kids, and then the Native American guy who
Right.
was neither an elder nor a Vietnam vet,
Right.
As originally reported. Got in that young kid's face.
Full circumstances surrounding the confrontation are still in dispute. But one thing that's not. What actually took place was a lot more complicated than what was initially reported. It all began on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial last Friday afternoon.
Okay, he looks pretty old there.
I mean,
if
yeah.
he looks old. If you saw him, if they cut to the I think it was ABC had him on. He looks 13. He's like he's 15
he has
and
gray hair, like gray hair.
No, not this guy.
Oh,
No. The kid looks like he's 17 or 18 in this picture. But if you look at him, if in the 60 Minutes interview, not even 60 Minutes, it was I think it was ABC or no NBC had him on. He looks like he's 13 or 14.
He probably is.
He's a young kid.
This clip of Covington High School student Nick.
So what happened beforehand was there was a bunch of the black Israelites off to the side, and they were harassing all these kids, yelling them all kinds of despicable names. Really, really bad stuff that I wouldn't even want to play on the podcast. And then this guy, and there's video of it, he was banging his drum, and he walks up right to this kid in the MAGA hat, and he doesn't know what to do. He's frozen, and he's just standing
Native
there.
American Nathan Phillips
and then it goes viral.
After some teenagers taunted a Native American elder, a Vietnam veteran.
It also launched a...
He wasn't a Vietnam veteran, apparently. That's what I've read. I mean, fact check me on that, but he wasn't. And I don't think he was a Native American elder either. So let's rewind. Did they get that? All right. So let's see.
He kind of looked like one.
Yeah, but
if you want to start
some teenagers taunted a Native American
making
elder,
assumptions.
a Vietnam veteran.
It also launched a cascade of commentary. But soon after those original
And we're a little
reports,
late to
another
it here.
90 minutes of video surfaced. CNN's Sarah Seidner watched it all.
And what we found is that it was some adults hurling nasty comments at these kids beforehand that ended up creating this tension.
Needless to say, this kid is now suing a ton of people, including Elizabeth Warren, who actually tweeted this out that it was despicable. And then, I got on Sue O'Connell from NECN because she retweeted something from David Bernstein over at WGBH. Still all about this, like these smug little brats or just... The retweets are still up there. They were all a part of it. Everybody around here was a part of it. And you got to learn to, just wait. Just don't jump on this. Wait. Stuff like this, people get burned so many times.
Yeah.
And a mutual Facebook friend of ours, someone who I argue with on our Facebook page often, my Facebook page often, also is just notorious for jumping the gun.
Yes.
And yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about. But that being the case, you always get burned. You always get burned on this. And I wish I could pull up, maybe the next live episode, pull up another supposed act of hate that took place after this with a famous, well, not so, an an actor who was claiming that an act of hate was thrust upon him in a violent way. Maybe we'll talk about that after the broadcast, so you know what I'm talking about.
According to Sidner,
So, anyway,
a group
this is
identifying
Beat the
itself
Press's
as Black
response.
Hebrew Israelites started taunting the kids as they waited for a bus.
You got all these dirty-ass crackers behind you with a red "Make America Great" hat again on.
The
That's not nice.
student gathering
That's not
got
nice.
bigger, and according to CNN, the taunting got worse.
A bunch of incest babies.
CNN says the students
You didn't hear that? No, that was part of it. Yeah,
asked
incest
for permission
babies.
to chant school
That's nice.
cheers to drown out the
'Cause we're-
men.
'cause they're
That's
white?
when Nathan Phillips approached. with his
Who
drum.
knows why, the reasoning behind it.
Build that wall, build that wall. You know.
Nobody else heard them say that.
Teens deny
Even if
saying
they said
that,
build that
and
wall,
it's
is that
not on
really
any
that
tapes.
awful?
Further, the New York Times offered this correction about Nathan Phillips
Now
after
that-
reporting that he was a Vietnam veteran.
There you go.
Also complicating matters, several people on the scene tweeted intentionally misleading
Yeah.
information, forcing Twitter to remove their accounts. File under a rush to
Interesting.
judgment.
Well, I'm going to repeat what I said in the beginning. We don't really know the exact timeline. We don't know exactly what happened. And when I
We do.
look at the
We do now.
standoff between,
We absolutely
Nathan
do.
Phillips and Nick Sandman, I still feel uncomfortable about it. But clearly, a lot of stuff came out very early. That one clip that was circulated over and over again, and then the Twitter feeds. And this goes back to something that you say all the time, John. You know, news media probably more than anybody else relies on Twitter for information, but you have no idea the source of that information. And apparently,
They just have to wait. They just have to go before they see it and they start writing about it. They just have to go, okay, where's this coming from? Who's doing it? I want to know more.
But they
they can't. But their business is set up to be the first.
Exactly.
So they have to come out with the fastest hot take about all this stuff, and then it goes haywire.
apparently there was an intent. It was a purposeful deceit, which is why those Twitter accounts were removed.
And in the era of technology now that will enable any clown with a few tools to superimpose people's heads on bodies and all this stuff, it's just going to get worse. I think this comes down to a fun.
It may get worse, but there was no superimposing of bodies here. This was people who saw the MAGA hats and wanted to pound them into the ground.
Fundamental question that legitimate journalists have to be asking every day, which is, is this news? I would argue this was not news.
Okay.
It became news because of the uproar that.
This is a cop-out. They do this often. They deflect. These guys especially on Beat the Press. It never should have been a story to begin with. That doesn't matter.
Right.
That doesn't matter. The fact is, it became a story. Yes, you're right. Should you know? And if the queen had balls, she'd be the king. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
The fact is, it became a story. Talk about why it did. And the fact is, they wanted it to be a story.
Yeah.
They wanted these kids in red MAGA hats to be racist and awful and picking on the Native American guy and being terrible people because they're allowed to hate them. And so many people bid it. And surprisingly, there were some people that actually retracted that after it all came out, and they're like, I'm sorry, respectable people, out on the Twitter sphere, somewhat famous. There were also others who just said, no. There's just awful people anywhere for wearing that MAGA hat, which just shows you where once the facts come out, they're still morally correct. And that's what AOC was talking about. Why was it even
being covered in the first place? There are weird.
Why was it being covered in the first place? Because you want to go after Trump supporters. Because you want to go after Trump supporters. That's why it was being covered.
Nasty and
because of the MAGA hats.
Between people. Well, I get.
Emily, the voice of reason. Honorary conservative Emily Rooney.
No.
Love it.
Poor judgment in elevating this to the level of notoriety it received, and no wonder people are doing all this manipulation because it's so easy to get away with.
I would think.
Because you're not good at your job. Be better. Be better.
And there are some who argue that the reason that this became big is because it played into the narrative that the liberal established.
Okay, he's seeing what I just said, but he said it differently. There are some that argue. I want to hear what his take is.
Always pushing, right? So if they weren't wearing the hats, they may not have been, so quick to cover something like this. But you see that you don't even have to see the video. when I first heard about this, it was on my Facebook feed with just the still frame of that. And of course, everyone who sent it around was adding in, can you believe this is happening? And I was worked up before I even knew what it was, right? and so I think we're quick, if it fits into what you would expect someone to be wearing a hat like that to be doing, then...
There it is. What somebody wearing a hat like that would be doing. And do you know what he was doing? He was just a young kid standing there with
like a fashionable hat.
Yeah, with just the look on his face, going, "This guy's coming up to me, and I might as well smile and be nice." You know, like just kind of like he's frozen. He doesn't know what to do. He's surrounded by 100 people.
It is so, and we really do have to pause.
This is like a halfway reflective remark on this,
and do a
pretty
little bit
good,
more investigating. When you look, what CNN did was they looked at a longer piece of footage, and maybe even others have looked at additional. They've looked at a lot, right? They look at it and they're able to piece it.
He stopped short of saying though that they were wrong for covering it, because he admits that the accusation of them covering it was because of Trump hats or MAGA hats, but it wasn't. He has to stop short of saying that it actually was the
together, because in that original one, we didn't even
be honest.
We didn't even hear.
At least Emily was pretty honest on it.
Israeli, group there, whatever I had not heard about them before, but they were not mentioned, and so we have to be very
They're
careful
all over New York
about
City,
playing
by the way,
into any of
harassing
these
people.
narratives
Sure
that we've become so accustomed to seeing in the media.
Well, I agree with you in part and disagree with you in part.
All right, Dan,
where I
let's hear it.
disagree with you is I watched some of the additional footage. I can't say I sat and watched an hour's worth of it, but I watched certainly a lot more than the clip. And I don't think the kids come off well in any of those clips.
Why? Because they're wearing hats?
They may not have been chanting "Build the Wall," but they were certainly doing tomahawk chops, which
they were okay. I mean
fine.
that's bad.
You got
That's
that.
bad. Don't do tomahawk chops.
We've already learned that.
I saw one. By the way, we learned. I actually ran into him in a few months ago.
Yeah, he's doing well.
He is.
My favorite people.
Yeah, no, he's a super nice guy. But this is I think there was one kid in that video that they said doing that.
Where I agree with you, I think that we had an overreaction in one direction and then an overreaction in the other direction. More than anything, I totally agree that this was not.
Look, their responsibility, the 5 people on this broadcasting to tens of thousands of people all over New England, and on the internet now you can get it anywhere. Their responsibility is to critique fairly, and to do the both sides did it thing, or this shouldn't have been a story thing. It absolves the media who did cover it because they were wearing MAGA hats. That has to be the genesis of all this conversation starting. But
if it shouldn't have been a story, then why are you still talking about it? Because you're
Granted,
still making it relevant.
Right. Well, this is a few weeks old, but this clip because it happened then, but they absolve themselves from really going after the people who F this story up, and it's a problem.
News. And it got a
I'm going to be
huge
picking on them
boost,
for all,
as you say, from Twitter, but it may have been from one of these fake accounts that was designed not even in the United States to whip up the...
Still beside the point.
Terrorism on the Twitter accounts.
It might have been a Russian bot, but the Washington Post, the New York Times, and every other person in media who retweeted has a responsibility to go, hang on a second.
Yeah.
What's really going on? But I think if they don't care that they get burned. And
divisiveness in this country.
This is how the Russians worked.
That's exactly how the Russians work. And that happened in this case, too. This has gotten way, way, way too much coverage.
I don't think so.
Well, I think a couple things
like
are going on. First of all,
I think it's revealing of what everybody thinks. I think it was perfectly revealing of what everybody thinks, and
I think
how
it helps
awful.
the center go towards our side.
Probably.
I don't know how we're going to stop journalists, even though they should know better, from reacting to what appears to be in the moment happenings. So we can argue about whether or not that was a story, and that's
all they have to do is learn.
But in the
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah,
but all they have to do is learn their lesson from this time and go next time. All right, let's take a deep breath before I go crazy on it. We shouldn't hold our breath for it.
Moment, somebody sends you this, and it was really about the March for Life. Let's not forget. So there were some reporters around and folks around covering that as well.
Well, that was
I
the
didn't
next
know.
day.
Well, I thought it was
No,
before
this was
that.
Friday night.
Yeah, okay. So, but I didn't know that the Native Americans had a march. That was not on my radar at all. So a lot of these things came together at once. I have to say, looking at it in terms of you're feeling uncomfortable, everybody was in everybody else's personal space, which right away to me made me uncomfortable just to begin with. Then those hats,
you're getting somebody's
whether
face,
or not
yeah.
the people who wear them intend them to be this, have come to represent something. So you factor that in. Now you've heightened.
See, that's tough. See, this is this is designed to, like, if you look, your political differences. If you want to put on a MAGA hat, this is designed to get you to take it off and be afraid to.
Right.
If you think that the red MAGA hat represents something, and another person thinks that no, it doesn't, and you come from the position of, well, it still represents it, and no matter what you say, I want to call you racist, bigoted, and all that stuff. Oof, I mean, you're going down. I mean, this it's not even a leap or a step to saying, well, you're a Republican, so you have all these blanket ideas, like we started the conversation with to begin with. It's like, well, Leah's a normal Republican, a regular Republican,
Right.
but so all the liberal friends that we have are allowed to have assumptions about what we believe, think, and feel, and you really, this is bad. You can't do that. You got to talk to people. Now, if you find out that they're an awful person and they have a MAGA hat on, I'm sure there are awful people that are on the liberal side, and we've come across many of them.
Yeah.
But we really have to tone this down, because if somebody's just wearing a hat and you want to make assumptions of them because you don't want to bother engaging them, we're going down a very dangerous road.
To all of this. I would say the best piece I've read about all of this is the one from Caitlin Flanagan from The Atlantic, who watched all the tapes and laid out every single nuance. And I would also say this, with people who are broad brushing the students is perhaps not right, but there's also a pattern in practice with these same students at their home school, where some have been wearing blackface, taunting other teams. That's
okay, little context on there. It wasn't. See, this is where they got to they got to do a little bit more digging on this. It wasn't blackface like Governor Northam in Virginia. It was they were wearing total body paint, blue, green, red, black. It's part of their basketball team thing, and it wasn't these exact same students, by the way. They had a picture from a few years ago that
so they're
surfaced.
probably in college by now or something.
Probably, but the point being, though, look, nobody should wear face paint anymore at all, period, just to avoid these things in the future if it's going to be a problem. But you got to be honest about what happened there. It was for these basketball games. It wasn't designed to mock anybody or anything. It was just straight up. They have these things where they these events for the basketball game where they each pick a color, and you have to bring that color into the gymnasium or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, pep rally stuff. That's a bit wrong. All right, I'm going to scratch this one. We're going to wrap this up. But look,
I'm always looking at what's the pattern in practice. And so if you're coming out of your pattern in practice, then if you say to me, we were just innocently standing there, I am less likely to believe you, because that's in the context of what is known
there
about
certainly
you.
was a
So
much
am I
bigger
not
narrative than
allowed
that.
to just stand wherever I feel anymore?
not if you're wearing a MAGA hat, Leah. You cannot.
What if it's like a really cute MAGA hat?
Well, nope. You are not allowed, and you are not allowed to probably wear a Reagan Bush T-shirt because that's hate. And yeah, you know, because you're a Republican, and you're not. You know, perhaps even if you wore a red hat without MAGA on it,
I mean, I have a red "Make Warren Teach Again" hat I got from Jeff Deal.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's probably nobody would read it enough to, and they just come right down.
Everyone thinks I have a MAGA hat.
I think Nathan Phillips, I don't know if he was part of a march. He does that drumming thing every day, I think. That's what he does. He drums, you know.
He gets right up in people's
And then
faces.
the whole thing, by the way, about him being a Vietnam veteran, his people put that out. He didn't, but that was another thing. Even the New York Times and the Washington Post picked that up, and that was bad. He wasn't. He's not. What
But
was
just like Elizabeth
first
Warren, we
you
can
guys
be
said?
whatever we want to be.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so I hope this at least technically went well across the broadcast of the Twitter sphere. I don't know how many people will watch it, but it'll be on YouTube, and then I'm going to try to dissect the audio off of it and not spend an inordinate amount of time doing so. But Leah Fahey, thank you for helping me test this out on our new live stream platform here. Let me do this. Oh, this is going to be fancy. I'm going to put your Twitter handle right here.
It's going to be like the only thing that's happened in the last year on my Twitter.
Yeah, right. You have to get back out there. So there's Leah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to clear that off. Okay. Check us out on YouTube. Now check us out on Twitter. Check us out on iTunes. I'll get the audio up on Google Play, Stitcher, all that stuff. I think this is going to go out on Twitch. I'm going to check this later. Maybe it went out on Twitch. Hopefully it did. I can't do it to Facebook because Facebook doesn't let you stream live to these sites and Facebook as well. But I'll upload it to some of the Facebook stuff. So, Leah Fahey, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for helping me test this out. And have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.